You know, it's crazy how in Jane the Virgin, a lot of people really preferred Michael and Jane over Raph and Jane. And honestly, me personally, I thought both of the guys were really good. I mean, yes, I could see why people would prefer Michael over Raph because Raph was very insufferable at times. But in this movie here, if I would have spent more time with Atlas and Blake Lively's character, Lily, rather than Justin Baldoni's character and Blake Lively, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more than I did. And I mean a lot more. This movie just has too much Justin Baldoni. But we will talk about that. And surprisingly, this movie isn't as bad as the trailer made it seem to be. And It Ends With Us. Hey guys, it's your guy in the chair here, and look, this is my review for It Ends With Us, starring Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, Jenny Slate, I believe the guy's name is Brandon Sklenar, and it was directed by Justin Baldoni. And our story follows a young lady by the name of Lily who moves home after her father's death and decides to stay home for a little while, open up a flower shop, and she meets this man named Ryle Kincaid, which is the most Bridgerton-ass name they could have came up with, but okay. She meets a man named Ryle, and essentially they have this relationship that starts to spark, but then she runs into a fling from her old past, and it brings up old feelings and things like that, and it ends up leading basically to a complicated relationship dealing with a topic that I won't necessarily get into because I'm not sure if it's a spoiler, but regardless, it's a love story. And one that really tries to emulate almost every single love story that you've ever seen. But here we are. So look, I will talk about what I liked and what I didn't like about the movie, and I'll start with what I liked, because one thing that I actually, like I said in my intro, thoroughly was surprised by was the movie is not as bad as the trailer made it seem. Every time that this trailer came on in the theater, I wanted to vomit. Literally throw up and claw my eyes out and actually just do anything to remove my ears from my body, because everything about that trailer was so cringe. The dialogue, the chemistry was so bad. It was just a very poorly put together trailer. And while I'll say this, there definitely are parts of that trailer that do show in this movie. It truly wasn't as bad as I was thinking. I walked in really thinking I was going to hate this movie, and I walked out pretty thoroughly surprised at how much I actually enjoyed it, and how one person, truly, solely, just one person ruined the entire thing. But we will get to that when I get to it. But look, the story itself is actually pretty good. It's a pretty decent, relatable story to get to if you've ever been through anything like this. And honestly, beyond that, I'm trying to figure out how to, put this together. Basically, when you get to the sum of why this movie is called It Ends With Us, it's a very beautiful story. It truly is. Like, once you start to realize what this movie actually is and what it is you're actually watching, if you have not read the book, I did not read the book. I just wanted to watch the movie. But once you truly start to figure out what this story is, and when the movie starts to segue into what message it's truly trying to say behind all of the other nonsensical bullshit that's going on, it becomes something more, and it becomes something very beautiful. And I absolutely loved why this movie is called It Ends With Us. It's a very powerful moment in the movie. It's very beautiful. That's all I can say about that. Now, the other thing I liked about this movie, you could take this how you want. Blake Lively wasn't horrible. I was going in here expecting Blake Lively to be absolute garbage, but that's because the chemistry in this movie, regardless of what I felt about the trailer, the chemistry in this movie is like watching paint dry, but we'll get to that in a second. Blake Lively is not actually bad in this movie. She's pretty decent. The Age of Adeline, if anybody's ever seen that movie, Blake Lively got very boring very fast in that movie, and I truly thought that's what was going to happen in this one. It did at times, but she did a very good job of handling a lot of the emotional weight of the movie, and she, like I said, she wasn't horrible, so I enjoyed that. Another thing I could say I absolutely adored about this movie, the strongest point of this movie, one of the strongest points of this movie, was Jenny Slate. Jenny Slate has a monologue in this movie that absolutely took my breath away. It was a very beautiful moment in the movie, and there were times where she absolutely just shined, as Jenny Slate tends to do. She was amazing in the movie. Now, I can kind of add this. I'm ready to talk about what I didn't like about the movie because it's going to be probably a very long rant. But we'll talk about this. The other thing I liked about this movie was Brandon Sklenar, the guy who played Atlas. Because, like I said, I'll talk about this first. Their chemistry, his chemistry between Blake Lively and himself, Atlas and Lily, was amazing. I truly sat there thinking to myself, if this movie would have just had more of them, it would have been absolutely an adorable ass movie. It would have been glorious because the Atlas guy was amazing. Even the younger versions of Blake Lively and Brandon, Blake Lively, Lily, whatever. The younger versions of Lily and Atlas's characters, those actors did a very good job as well. I was truly way more interested in everything that had to do with Atlas and Lily's story rather than Ryle and Lily. I thought I was sitting there literally feeling like I was in the middle of a Twilight Saga movie, just trying to figure out between Edward and Jacob. And it's Team Edward all the way. But Ryle was basically Team Jacob in this predicament, and I truly could not stand it. But Atlas and Lily's chemistry is something that I adore about this movie as well. Now, as you can probably figure out, what I did not like about this movie has everything to do with Justin Baldoni, and not necessarily the character of Ryle, although I hate that name, Ryle Kincaid. It's just a very douchey ass name. The character of Ryle is very pivotal to the story itself, and honestly, like I said, when the movie starts to reveal what it actually is at a certain point in time, Ryle's character is very important to the entire story. And if this would have just been played by somebody else, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. What it takes to play the character of Ryle, when you really get into what this movie is about, I was not sold on that by Justin Baldoni. And I apologize if I'm being very brief about that or not being as detailed as humanly possible. I don't know if the message of this story is very clear and what people know what it surrounds. I mean, okay, I'll touch on it a little bit. It surrounds domestic violence, but essentially, I don't know if you guys know anything deeper than that, so I'm not going to get into it because that was a surprise to me and something that really made the movie shine a lot brighter than it did previously before. But like I said, everything about Justin Baldoni just did not work for me whatsoever. Somebody else should have played this character. I think that would have been a lot more entertaining. The chemistry between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively is atrocious. Just like the trailer predicted, or the trailer showed. Their chemistry is off due to a few things. The dialogue is terrible. The dialogue is really like 2005, 2006, very VHS, straight to DVD kind of dialogue for romantic comedy. It's not very good at whatsoever. Another thing that does not work about their chemistry is the fact that this movie tries to literally be every single kind of romance movie that you've ever seen, whether it's a rom-com, a dramedy, straight drama, romance, whatever the case may be. This movie tries to be all of those things in the first hour and 30 minutes of this movie, which we'll talk about the runtime in a second too, because what the fuck? Why is this thing 2 hours and 10 minutes? But this movie literally tries to be every single type of romance movie you've ever seen, whether it's Twilight, After, 50 Shades, Friends with Benefits, To All the Boys I Loved Before, to literally When Harry Met Sally, Always Be My Maybe. It does not matter. If you name it, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, if you name it, there is an example of one of those movies in this movie here. It tries to be everything all at once. It can never just stick with one singular tone. It just tries to go all over the place. I was not a fan of that. And it's Justin Baldoni's fault because he's the director. If you would have just focused on directing instead of trying to just go back and forth between being the star of this movie and directing it, would have enjoyed it a lot more. Look, and the other thing about their chemistry that just does not work for me, it's just like watching two hot people interact with each other. It's like watching it's like watching one of those Love Island type of reality shows. It just feels so forced to me. It doesn't necessarily, it just feels like two hot people interacting with each other. Once Atlas came on screen, I felt like I was watching an actual human being interact with Lily, and that's when Blake Lively's performance started to even become more alive than it already did. Now, Blake Lively is just effortlessly stunning in this movie. She's absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, there are times where her performance doesn't necessarily work for me, but the main majority gist of why this movie just truly was irking me was Justin Baldoni's performance. I just truly could not buy his character whatsoever because of the way he was portraying it. Like I said, if you give this to somebody else, I think he would have did a lot better job, and I think Justin Baldoni could have made a better movie directorial wise, because honestly, like I said, when it gets to the meaningful part of the movie, that's done brilliantly. So you had good ideas here. You just tried to do way too much and be too much of a pretty boy in the beginning of this part. And again, like I said, the runtime. The runtime is entirely too long. 2 hours and 10 minutes is ridiculous. If this movie was an hour and 45, an hour 50, that is perfect. You put this movie around the hour 45, hour 50 mark, and it's a much better movie. It is, I promise you. If you replace Justin Baldoni and just cut that runtime down, you're working with something special here. But surprisingly, like I said, it is pretty good. It's mainly due to everybody that's not named Justin Baldoni, but it is a pretty damn decent movie. I will say that. I'm shocked. I am shocked. I am shocked that I really enjoyed this movie as much as I did. It was not as bad as I thought it was, but Justin Baldoni made this pretty unbearable at times. But look, overall, guys, It Ends With Us. If you've read the book, I'm sure you're going to be in love with this movie. Honestly, I think a lot of girls are just going to be in love. There were so many people in my theater. Every time Justin Baldoni took his shirt off, just did something, literally just moved, they were just going completely nuts over it. Okay. Whatever. I mean, that was kind of me with Blake Lively too. But I mean, look, it is what it is. So a lot of people are probably going to love Justin Baldoni in this movie. He did not work for me whatsoever. It just has a very unbalanced tone shift a lot in the beginning, in like the first hour 30 minutes. It just flips to a whole bunch of different movies. And another thing I have to say about this runtime before I wrap this all up, this movie just feels like a bunch of events happening. There are never any timestamps, at least any that I saw, meaning that it never gives you a time frame of when all these events are kind of happening. There are 2 pregnancies that happen in this movie. That's 9 months of time. That's 18 months for 2 pregnancies, and then there's a bunch of story before and after that. There's a lot going on in this movie, and it just seems like they never put a time frame on any of it, and it just feels like all of this is just happening. It just feels very convoluted, but it may be his directorial debut, so it's not the worst directorial debut I've ever seen. But as far as that performance, yeah, you can toss that out the window. But look, for all those reasons and so many more, guys, I'm actually going to give It Ends With Us a 3 out of 5 stars. All right, guys, so It Ends With Us. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Look, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff and so much more. Look, this is your guy in the chair. More content coming to you soon.